On Larry King Now, Veep and Mercy Street star Gary Cole.
The longer I work and the longer I'm around, the more aware of how fortunate I am it occurs to me, because I know that it's the exception, not the rule, for a career to have longevity.
Will they introduce a Trump-like character?
Veep has always picked prototypes from current affairs, but they have never identified them as such. It's really a world unto itself, so I don't know that you'll see a real obvious version of Donald Trump.
What is, for want of a better word, the genius of Julia Louis-Dreyfus?
Combination of through-the-roof talent mixed with a work ethic that's probably unmatched.
Plus, person you'd least like to be stranded on a desert island with.
Wow. Kellyanne Conway just ought to pick up her.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest is Gary Cole. He's certainly one of Hollywood's finest, known for his Emmy-nominated role as White House strategist Kent Davidson on the HBO smash comedy Veep. In the past, we've seen him in films like Talladega Nights, Dodgeball, and the cult classic Office Space, as well as TV shows like The Good Wife, Entourage, and Suits. Currently, Gary is tackling the part of James Green Sr. in the acclaimed Civil War drama series Mercy Street. The second season of Mercy Street premieres January 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern on PBS. How did this come about for you?
This was something that PBS hadn't done an original script, I think, for like 10 or 15 years. Scripted.
I remember that last one.
Yeah. And so a couple of the producers, Lisa Wilson and her partner, uncovered this story about this place that was called the Mansion House, which was a kind of a luxury hotel in Alexandria,
Virginia.
in Virginia, that at the very outset of the war, the Union Army basically immediately took over Alexandria and converted this hotel into a field hospital. So that's the centerpiece of it. And so it's kind of two stories going on, the hospital and then the family who previously owned the structure that became the hospital, which was my family, the Green family.
Southern.
And then that's kind of the parallel stories going on. Yeah.
Southern family.
Right. Right.
Second season got a lot of buzz. What makes this show catch on?
Well, I think
so many Civil War.
Yeah, I think because there is a lot. We've seen a lot of Civil War material on camera, but most of it has to deal with the war itself. It has to deal with battle strategy, certain battles, and it's really heavy on the military. This had an unusual backdrop in that it really showed what happens when a city is occupied and not really in the forefront of, not really in the crossfire. Alexandria was immediately captured. It's funny because I visited Alexandria before we started, and I'm trying to imagine, because you look over the river and there they are. I mean, you can see the boats coming. I mean, I don't know how long they were considered the Confederacy, because it didn't last very long.
It's a suburb of Washington.
Yeah. So immediately they were out of luck geographically.
I'm told this season is going to deal more with what happened in the war?
There's a little more material that has to do with espionage that's taking place, having to do with battle strategy and casualties. So they opened it up a little more, and we're a little more ambitious this year, so therefore they were a little more visual, and that lent itself
to
the
work. Shoot?
In Richmond and all around
Right
Richmond.
there.
Yeah.
Tell me about your character.
James Green, as I said, was the owner of this place called Mansion House. He is a very wealthy Southerner who made his money through, he had a furniture factory, and also this hotel, which has been taken over. So in Mercy Street, the story centers around, as I said, the hospital, but also this family. He has 2 daughters and 1 son, and the effects that the war and having to forever in season 1, he was resisting signing the the oath of loyalty to the Union Army, primarily because I believed he thought himself a little bit above it because he was this wealthy guy that figured he could call all the shots.
Does he have a Southern accent?
He has, yeah, he has what I call my Southern accent, which is his taste of it. Not too much, not too gone with the wind. But.
At this point in your career, are you enjoying this?
I am, the longer I work and the longer I'm around, the more aware of how fortunate I am it occurs to me, because I know that it's the exception, not the rule, for a career to have longevity.
I guess you're most acknowledged for Bill Lemberg, right?
I would say so, yes.
Why did that movie, it's a cult movie, right?
I would say so, yeah.
What keeps that indelible in everybody who follows it? Why was that character so unique?
I think it has to do with that culture, and not just that character. I think that Mike Judge, who wrote and created it, put his finger on a culture that I was unaware of, because I never worked in an office, so I don't know anything about cubicles. But that's a huge, part of the workforce, and I think people really identified with, with all of those people in it. I know I did identify with Lumbergh because I had bosses that seemed to resemble him, just passive aggressive, never raised their voice, but they were still beyond annoying, and I think.
Are they going to make another one?
No, I don't think. I think that would have to do with Mike, and I don't think Mike is interested in that. So,
when we return with Gary Cole, it'll be all things Veep, including what to expect, and everyone's guessing since she's not Veep anymore, in season 6. Don't click away. Our guest is Gary Cole, one of the stars of Mercy Street. The second season of Mercy Street premieres January 22nd, 8 p.m. Eastern on PBS. Okay, season 6 of Veep. You're already shooting, right?
We're shooting. We're in the middle of it, yeah.
You done about half of them?
Yeah, just about, yeah.
Okay, your co-star, Tony Hale, recently said regarding season 6, we're not going to be political satire anymore. We're going to have a political comedy on CNN. What is she in Veep when she's not Veep?
Well, we were all wondering the same thing. As a matter of fact, at the end of last season, a lot of people were coming up to cast members and go, "That's it? You're done?" And well, not that we know of. Did I get fired? We were all paranoid. We were wondering what they came up with. But basically, it's what happens to an administration that is shown the door. Everybody kind of scatters, tries to pick up work in Washington. So we're all kind of in different places.
You're not an ensemble anymore?
Well, we're an ensemble, but we don't cross paths as often as we did before. We're not all in the West Wing, obviously. And I don't want to, under penalty of death, I can't reveal too much plot points, but needless to say that the Selena, Julia, is exploring options such as possibly, looking into memoirs, stuff like that. Everybody else is kind of.
Do you all get together at times?
In the show, they've found a way to take some of these worlds that we're all in. Some are in media, some are working in other parts of the government, but the writers have found a way to, hook us up sometimes and then us part ways and then come back. I have no idea where it's going because we're in the middle of season 6, so we've got 5 more to do. I'll know more probably in a few weeks.
What are you doing?
I have been relegated to a job working for, and I don't want to do a plot point, for a less than desirable congressman. So I'm basically scraping the bottom of the barrel as doing my same job but doing it for somebody else.
Will they introduce a Trump-like character?
They have always, Veep has always picked prototypes from current affairs, but they have never identified them as such. And I don't think that it has ever been reflective of exactly what's going on. I think it takes circumstances that have happened in the past and kind of blends it into their own world. It really is their own. As a matter of fact, in the first 4 years, because we had these, the writers were from Britain, they never, I don't think the word Democrat or Republican was ever uttered. It is a little bit more now, but I think it's really a world unto itself. So I don't know that you'll see, you know, a real obvious version of Donald Trump.
Will it do as well?
We'll see. We'll see.
It's a risk.
Yeah, I mean,
they could have kept her. She could have won.
Right, and I don't know where they're going to take that. The kind of strange thing is, and she said it herself, and we've all said it, is that at this point, it's very difficult to satirize politics. How do you
satirize what is satire?
How are you over the top at all? What can you come up with that's over the top? That line keeps moving, you know. So it's harder and harder to do.
What do you make of Mr. Trump?
Well, I guess we're going to wait and see, because the president, they're going to take the president-elect off of the end of the title, and I think then we're going to know a lot more.
What is, for want of a better word, the genius of Julia Louis-Dreyfus?
Combination of just through-the-roof talent mixed with a work ethic that's probably unmatched. You know, and just highly intelligent, and also I would say a born leader. All of those things collided with this character. And you would say that, you know, probably why would people root for a character like this? You know, and yet she's able to make that happen. This character in the hands of somebody else could be very off-putting. And yet we almost root for her to be as off-putting as possible.
Is she funny? Some people are funny actors, but they're not funny at the dinner table.
I don't know that I know the answer to that question, because I don't know if I know her well enough to actually judge that. But I would say that she's quieter than that character, you know, and more internal than that character. That would be my observation, but that would just be an observation.
Comedy is difficult. Are you it appears you're very comfortable with it.
You know, I don't know that I'm comfortable with anything.
Really?
Yeah, sometimes that's how I feel. Although the one thing about comedy that is actually not murky is that you know when it works and when it doesn't. You know, the joke is, you know, in drama you can go, did that work? Maybe that worked. That was kind of interesting. But in comedy, it either works or it doesn't. There's no in between.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, it's deadly. If it works, it works. And so that clarity, I think, is, for me at least, helpful.
Tony Randall said comedy is a very serious business.
Well, it's black and white in that respect. Yeah. Yeah.
And your character doesn't think he's funny, right?
No, my character is what we'd say, he's certainly kind of robotic. He was described to me initially by the initial creator of the show as somebody who was highly intelligent with absolutely no people skills whatsoever.
Next, we'll learn the biggest risk Gary's ever taken, plus more of a game of If You Only Knew. Stay with us. We're back with Gary Cole. Mercy Street, second season premieres January 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern on PBS. I'll be watching all of them. It's the first year, but Civil War fascinates me.
Got a lot of catching up to do.
More atrocities in the Civil War than people know. Vicious, terrible things.
Yeah.
The Good Wife, now a spin-off called The Good Fight. Are you in that?
I am.
How would you describe The Good Wife?
Well, I mean,
watch it like sometimes. Am I watching an offbeat lawyer series, a comedy, a political thing, a series? What is The Good Wife?
I think that yes to all of those. Yeah, I think that the Kings who have created that, the writing partners, they have kind of put that all into one soup, and it's a little bit of all of that. I think it began as, you know, the strongest image in that show was that idea of the good wife who stands behind someone or her husband who had betrayed her. And we saw that time and time again, you know, in news footage of women standing behind politicians that have gone astray for one reason or another. That's the image that they began with. That's the image that they left with after 7 years. And so that, to me, was the most powerful thing about that idea.
And what's the good fight about?
Well, the good fight now has focused and shifted to the character that Christine Baranski has played and was, for a while, a partner of Juliana Margulies' character in the initial show. And now she's got her own firm, and by story point, because we were married, I'm still hanging around. There's still use for me because the show is focused on her. So.
Okay, we play a little game of If You Only Knew. I just throw some things at Gary Cole.
Uh-oh.
New Year's resolution.
Get to the Cubs game this year because I didn't last year.
You grew up in Chicago and you're a Cub fan.
I did. I'm sorry to say.
I'm a Dodger fan.
I know.
You knocked us off. Funniest fan encounter.
Ooh. Funniest fan encounter. Well, I guess, I don't know. There's nothing funny other than the times when people show up for and ask you to sign a picture, but they happen to have 50 pictures.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah. No.
Biggest risk you ever took?
Maybe coming out here.
From Chicago?
Yeah, Chicago to L.A., yeah.
Place we'd most likely find you on a day off?
Three-putt golf course, or three-par golf course.
You have family?
Yes, I do.
Kids,
Yes,
wife, the whole
yes,
thing?
yeah.
Historical figure you'd most like to play on screen?
Ooh. Gary Hart. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good choice. That's an interesting
Good casting.
Follow me.
Yeah.
If you could take one person, dead or alive, to lunch, who would it be?
Oh, Don Rickles.
Person you'd least like to be stranded on a desert island with?
Wow. Kellyanne Conway, just out of pick up.
Not a bad choice. Best piece of advice you ever received?
It was from a wrangler in a Western, and I was sitting on a horse, and I couldn't get the horse to stay in frame, and he said, "Gary, you need to learn to act from the waist up."
A role you regret turning down?
I don't think I have that. No, I don't think one. I think I've grabbed everything that I've wanted that came near me.
So there's nothing you ever saw on screen and said, I was offered that and I didn't?
Anything that I would be pointing to on screen enviously, the chances are I was probably not offered it, so I wouldn't have to worry about it.
Something you long believed to be true but realized isn't?
Ooh. My own significance.
Someone you'd trade places with for a day?
Oh. Anthony Rizzo.
First base, Cubs.
First base, Cubs, yeah.
You're a real fan. I am too. A superpower you wish you had?
Flight.
Favorite thing about Hollywood?
Toluca Lake.
That's where you live?
Yeah.
Proudest accomplishment?
My daughter.
Your dog?
Daughter.
Daughter.
Daughter, yeah.
I thought you said
My dog, yeah. No, my dog.
Gary Cole in 10 years?
Whew. Still kicking.
You love what you do, right?
I do, yeah.
Can't beat it.
No.
It's a great life if you're working.
It is, and as I said, the longer it goes on and the longer it's possible, the more aware of that I am, yeah.
Henry Fonda once told me, it's so insecure, no matter how much you've acclaimed, if you don't have a script in front of you, you're scared.
Oh, I believe that, and I believe he would say that. And it's amazing that you would think that he would say that. Yeah. But of course, yeah, there is that. Without that, you know, I mean,
where am I going?
Yeah, but I think it's also, I mean, I think I got into it for the right reason. For some reason, and I don't know why, there is a need to do this. There is a need to tell stories, and there's a need to portray something.
In our final moments, Gary will take your questions from social media, including a special inquiry from a friend of his. That's next.
Uh-oh.
Gary Cole's with us, Mercy Street, another one of his appearances, of which there are thousands. He also appeared with my wife in Christmas Eve.
He did indeed.
Wonderful scene. She did well with
She did great, yeah.
Okay, our first question is from someone you know well. At Timothy C. Simons. On Twitter, he asks, this is his question, what are Timothy C. Simons' best and worst qualities?
His best qualities. His best qualities is that when he enters a room, he can detect if there's dust on the overhead lights.
He's like Felix Unger.
He is. But he's also, yeah, he's a tall man.
What's his worst quality?
His worst quality, I wouldn't even say this is a worst quality, but it's a quality I don't know how to call it a quality. He can work the perks. You know what I mean? I mean, in 10 years, if he's still working, he won't pay for anything. He will have so much free stuff and free access to, luxury boxes. And he had us shooting free throws at the Wizards game after the game just because he asked somebody. I would never have that,
Timothy has a follow-up question. What are Sam Richardson's best and worst qualities?
Oh boy, you put me on the spot here. Well, Sam has his best quality is, to me, not knowing him all that well, even though I work with him, but he has a pretty uncanny improvisational mechanism going on there. He just kind of comes up with stuff that's not only, on the spot, but just kind of on another planet as well.
What's the worst quality?
His worst quality, I guess, is that he's a Detroit Lions fan, and I'm from Chicago.
You're a Bear fan?
Sadly, yes, I'd have to say, this year.
And Mr. Hambach on Twitter, any more Brady Bunch movies in the works?
I think we've milked that cow sufficiently.
At Magic Music 2012 on Twitter, will we ever see Kent Davidson run for office?
I would doubt that because I don't think he could survive being public in any way and interacting with people. I think he'd have a heart attack or something.
At Messi Gallo on Twitter, do you prefer working on television shows or movies?
To me, especially at this point, I don't think it makes any difference. It all winds up on television, and the speed at which things are
cameras.
And then the speed at which things are done, there's virtually, it doesn't change my job at all.
Chris Arneson on Twitter, can you please come into work on Saturday? That would be great.
Never heard that before.
At Jonathan Emden on Twitter, what would you like to do after Veep?
Well, that's the dilemma. When you're on something that has an impact and it is working, it's a combination of things. Something that's working, something you're proud of, and something people actually, come to and watch. Then what's the next thing? Do you get all of those things again? That's the big dice roll. So, but that's what I would look for, something that has all the, all the positive aspects of Veep.
One final thing, Magic Cindy 22 on Twitter, would you ever consider restarting Midnight Caller?
Well, I have a lot of affection for Midnight Caller, basically because it was one of the first things that I did. And I'll have to say, and I'll round it out with this, that part of my kind of zen trying to do that, because it was, it was my first job and it was kind of intimidating. But I thought of you. I thought of back in the day when you had a show
on the radio.
I think you were in D.C. at the time.
Correct.
Open Phone America.
Yep.
That guy.
That guy.
That was kind of in the back of my mind whenever I slipped behind in our little version of our booth and was taking calls at late hours. That came to my mind. So.
I'm honored. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. All right.
Big thanks to my guest, Gary Cole. Be sure to watch the second season of Mercy Street, premiering January 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern on PBS, as well as Season 6 of Veep, airing in the spring of 2017 on HBO. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at Kings Things. We'll see you next time.